Well, all right, and welcome to the God Talk with the host, Chris Marker. I'm so excited for this new message series. This new message series called Understand the Scream. And as we're going through this, as we're going to go through this week, I want you guys to understand something. Understand the reason that we scream. Understand the reasons of our life that we scream. Sometimes it might be that we scream out in pain. Sometimes that we scream out in joy. And then also looking at the screams of our life. Looking at all the different kinds of things that happen and realizing the reason that we scream, the reason that someone might get loud, the reason that we get to have this time is that we get to praise Him. And so often the world doesn't understand why we scream. The world doesn't understand why sometimes preachers get a little bit more excited than other preachers, and why it might seem like they're screaming. It's not that they're screaming at you. It's not that they're so active that they just got off some energy drink. It's because they are passionate about what they do, and so they seem to scream. And so today we're going to understand the scream. And so this week is understand the screams of pain. Understand the screams of pain. And so if you guys have your Bible, man, that's awesome. If you guys have a YouVersion, that's awesome too. And today we're going to be in Job 1. We're going to be in Job 1, verse 8. And again, look at the screams of our life. So often, or looking at the screams of pain, so often people do not realize that there are millions of people today screaming out in pain. It could be that they're screaming out in physical pain, that their arms hurt, that their body just aches because of their age, because of the things that they do, because of the job that they work. Or maybe sometimes people are screaming out because they need God. And the pain of not having Him with us, the pain of not knowing Him is more than we can bear, and so they scream out in pain. And so often we look at people who are screaming today. We look at people in our churches who are screaming out for God, who are screaming in pain, and we look at them and think, oh my gosh, they're so weird. But we need to understand that they're screaming out in pain because they have lost something. They have lost something. It might be that they lost feeling in their hand. It could be that they lost feeling in their right arm. It could be that they lost feeling in their entire bodies because they do not feel the presence. They do not feel their muscles inside of them. And so our body aches. They do not feel our tendons moving and our vessels pumping blood. They don't feel that because our bodies are numb and they hurt and they ache. Just like when we go to the gym or we clean a house and we get sore, or we come home after work and we're sore and we scream out a little bit in pain. That's us today because we can't feel because our bodies are numb. That's your body saying, I'm just stretching out your muscles. I'm just stretching out your muscles here. And it might hurt us a little bit. The first time I decided to work out was not last year, but the year before that. And my good friend, he was like, you're going to come work out with me. Mind you, I've never worked out a day in my life before that. Never worked out. I did a little bit of taekwondo with a little bit of working out, but not lifting. And so my friend and we went lifting. And the first time I went lifting, it was okay. The first day, it was okay. I didn't feel anything. The second day, I was okay. I didn't feel anything. The third day, I started to get a little achy. The fourth day, it started to hurt. The fifth day, it seemed like it was unbearable. And when you start to work out different parts of your body, different parts start to hurt. They hurt more because you're stretching out those muscles. Your body hurts more because maybe that area of your body hasn't been worked out yet. When I was doing the chest compressions with that bar, you hold over your chest and you go up and down. My chest, it hurt. It hurt a lot. But guess what? Since I decided to work out more, I decided to lift more. That pain that I feel right now, that pain that was so unbearable in the beginning is now tolerable. Why? Because I've been through that pain before. I've been through that pain before. I need you guys to understand this today. I have been through that pain before, and so right now, that pain of my life, that pain that I'm screaming out of, doesn't hurt as badly as it did. Why? Because I have been through it. There are so many people today who do not understand the screams of pain. They don't understand the screams of agony that people go through. They don't understand that some people today have gone through traumatic things, whether it's a car accident, whether it's someone who was supposed to be there to love them, betrayed them. It could be that someone who was supposed to protect you and love you decided that they didn't want to do that, but instead they wanted to take advantage of you. And we scream out in pain. And so today in the Bible, we're gonna look at a guy who was a great guy. I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of background on this guy. And we're gonna be in Job. For you guys who don't know who Job is, Job was this great guy. I know I just said that, but he was this great guy. He was a compassionate guy. He loved God with everything that he had in him. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to follow you. I'm going to follow you, Jesus. I'm going to do everything that you've called me to do today. Until tragedy struck his life. He lost his sons. He lost the things of this life. He lost something. And this pain that he feels right now, it's not going to be the end. So I need you guys to get this today. Anyone who's screaming out in pain today, it is not the end. It is not the end. Because that pain that you feel right now will get better. Just like when you're working out the first time. It might seem like it's unbearable. It might seem like that pain is unbearable. You cannot take anymore. But when we decide that we're going to work out that part of our body, and we keep working on it, we keep building on it, and we keep building muscle upon muscle on it, that pain doesn't hurt anymore. Why? Because our body gets used to it. Our bodies get used to it. And in the same way, there's people who are crying out for God in pain. They just need to reach out and grab him. They need to reach out and touch him. A little side story. If you guys remember the story of Jesus walking with all of his disciples, and this woman who was known as Mary, the same Mary whose brother was sick, she was suffering. She was suffering. She was screaming out in pain because she had demons inside of her. And she saw that Jesus was walking past. And she said to herself, if I can just reach out and touch the edge of his cloak, that I will be healed. If I can just reach out and touch the edge of his cloak, that I won't feel this pain anymore. If I can just reach out and feel this cloak, that I will be healed. And we see that in the Bible, it says, Jesus realized the power had gone from him. And he turned around and he said, who touched my cloak? Like he didn't already know. And he saw this woman. And it says that your faith has healed you. Your faith. And so have faith today that pain that you are screaming out, that pain that you think is going to define your life, that pain that think you're going to hold you down, will not define you, but your faith will define you. Your faith will show your tolerance for pain. Your faith will show it, because your faith will heal you. Faith will heal you. And so the same thing with Job. It says this in verse 8, if you guys are following along in your Bibles. It says, then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Jacob? Or have you considered my servant Job? There was no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. Does Job fear God for nothing? Satan replies. Have you not put hinges around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. Now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. Now, I want you guys to get this. When you're reading through this, it's kind of like a little bet between God and Satan. God and Satan kind of messing with this person's life. Kind of like, oh, I'll make a deal with you. I can bet you that he's gonna turn away from you, and that he's not gonna like you anymore, and then he's gonna curse you down because you have cursed his life. And Jesus is gonna look back. Jesus is gonna look back at Satan and say, "No, he's not. No, he's not." We kind of see him kind of toying with his life. What we see, we're gonna see something. We're gonna see something so amazing. We can see something so amazing right now in this world. Something amazing that's gonna happen. And so, something amazing is gonna happen. So this is what happened. Then the Lord said to Satan, "Very well, then everything he has is in your power, but on this man himself do not lay a finger." Then Satan went out from from the presence of the Lord. One day Job's sons and daughters were fasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house. A messenger came to Job and said, "The ox were plowing and the deer were grazing nearby, and the Sabbaths attacked, and they made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." Now this is where we see his life starting to fall apart. And this is the part of the story where the screams of pain come in. The screams of pain come in. Because we often see that the screams of pain, the pain that we feel right now, the pain that is going out from us, is not because of something that has happened. Not because of something that was here. But because of something that happened in his life that started the downward spiral. The pain. Started the downward spiral to pain. And the screams of pain. And so it said, while he was speaking, another messenger came and said, "The fire of God fell on the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants. I am the only one who escaped to tell you." I'm the only one who has escaped to tell you. Now we see that Job's life now. Job's life now is starting to fall apart. He's like, great, my oxen are gone. My oxen are gone. I have no cattle. I have almost nothing. My cattle's being burned. I have nothing. The things I've worked so hard in my life to obtain is being taken away. Being taken away. And we see that now he has a choice. We see that this is where the pain comes in. So often we will shy away from pain because it hurts us. We shy away from the things that hurt us. But so often we need to go through that pain so that we can know who God is. I'm going to say it because I want you guys to get this. Sometimes we have to go through the pain. Sometimes we have to go through the pain of this world so we can see who Jesus is. So we can see who Jesus is. So he's saying, I'm the only one who's escaped to tell you that all of your hard work, all that you have founded, all these things right now, that you've worked so hard for, is falling apart. It's falling apart. Now we see that he has a choice. He has a choice right here. He has a choice. He can either follow God. He can either follow God and do what God has called him to do, and keep on fighting the good fight, and keep on doing what he's called to do, and not let this pain seep into his life. Not let this pain defy who he is. Not let this pain tell him who he is and who God tells him he already is. He has a choice. He has a choice. And so we see that this is his choice. He keeps on working. He keeps on working. Why? Because he's not going to let the pain of this life define who he is. And so, we see that the servant comes. He's like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but all the things that you've worked so hard for are dying right now. This thing that you've worked so hard for right now is dying. How can I tell you? How can I tell you? It says this in verse 17. It says this. It says, while you were speaking, another messenger came, and the cattle's axes found three riding parties, and swept down on your cattle and made off with them. And they put the servants to the sword. I'm the only one who's left to tell you. I'm the one left to tell you. We see that now. Everything that he is working for, everything that Job right now is working so hard for, has totally escaped. And he's saying, things in your life are not going well. Things in your life are not the way that they should be. And often the pain of our life dictates the direction of our life. I'm going to say this one more time because I want you guys to get this. We often let the pain of our life dictate the direction of our life. But we see that now, even though all these things are happening, he will not let the pain defy him. And this is not even the worst part of the story yet. It's not even the worst part of the story yet. It says this in verse 18. Verse 18. It says this. While he was speaking, yet another messenger came and said, your sons and your daughters were fasting and drinking wine at the oldest son's house. The oldest son's house. When suddenly a mighty wind swept in front of them, destroying them, and struck the four corners of the house. It collapsed on them. And they are dead. And I am the only one who escaped to tell you. I'm the one who's escaped to tell you. We see that now. He is at a crossroads because he doesn't know what to do. He's either going to let these things defy him. He's going to let these things in his life define who he is, or he's going to do something about it. It says this in verse 20. It says this. It says, At this, Job got up and tore off his robe and served his and wrapped his hands. Then he fell on the ground and worshipped.